Good evening, everybody, and welcome. Welcome. If you're just coming in, come on and settle in. There's a few chairs still up front if you like a chair. There's still some cookies, there's still some hot chocolate. But I'd like to officially welcome everybody. Oh, there's still names to be written out. So you might notice around the crowd tonight, instead of a hello, my name is, we have a hello, I'm walking in memory of name tags. So if you haven't got yours yet, please feel free to get them. They're up by the cookies. Grab one before you head out on the trail, and you can share stories of those you're walking in memory of. So events like this are only possible because of the generous support of community. Our community, our sponsors, the donors, the people here in attendance tonight. And whether we're attending here in memory of a loved one or just want to support a great organization in our community, thank you all for being here and braving the April showers and taking a walk on a muddy trail. My name is Jay McFarlane, and I have retired from the volunteer board of directors at Huron Hospice, but I still like to volunteer in lots of little ways. So things like this, the event. And I believe strongly in what Huron Hospice does for our community, because I think it's things like Huron Hospice that make this a stronger community. It's my job to bring thanks for tonight. So I'll start out by saying thanks to the municipality of Blue Water for letting us use this building and the trails at virtually no cost. They got a great nonprofit discount, so thank you. The Bayfield River Valley Trails Association, who maintain the trails, thank you very much for doing a rushed spring cleanup between the snow we had last week and this week. The Clinton Pipe Band and Drums, thank you for being here tonight. You really add something special to this evening. The Soulless Bedside Singers, you will hear along the forest path. It's really something magical to hear a choir singing in the middle of a forest, so you can look forward to that. Volunteers in many roles here this evening. A special thanks to the organizing committee who made this possible, but especially Helen Verkamp and Roger Mather. If you could just take... Yeah, thank you both. So following my opening remarks here, I'll pass the microphone over to Willie, our executive director at Huron Hospice, and he'll have a short reflection for us. And he always has a great story to tell and a really thought-provoking speaker, so I'm looking forward to that, Willie. Following Willie, we will hear the reading of the names. Names that many of you have donated in memory of tonight, to have a candle lit along our trail. After the names are read, we'll have the Clinton Pipe and Drums, Legion Branch 140, lead us out on the trail. So please follow the pipers out when they leave. There'll be no closing remarks up at the front here, just follow the band. The Candlelight Memorial Walk is truly a memorable event, so I think that's fitting, Memorial Walk, and it really is a memorable event. It's been so understated, and the pictures don't do it justice. But if you are taking pictures, please feel free to share them with Huron Hospice on social media, just so we can all see your unique angles, unique stories. Something that we've learned from previous years. Let's not rush it. Feel free to take your time on the trail, let others pass if they wish, meander for a while, pause, listen, share stories. And we can even take a staggered start at the trailhead. And when you come across the soulless singers in the forest, feel free to stop and listen or just continue on your stroll. The goal here is take it all in. Let's not feel rushed by the chaos of life and honor the memories of those we have lost by sharing our stories tonight. So once again, thank you all for being here and for contributing to a wonderful place in our community. And of course, honoring someone who's close to you. Without further ado, please welcome Willie. Roger Mather would like to... What's going on? Oh, I've got the wrong order of events. First up is the Legion Pipe and Drums for an opening number.
It's now almost 10 years ago that my father died. While it was difficult, it was a good death. It was on a Sunday afternoon that my parents asked me to come over to their house in Stratford to help them plan the funeral. My dad was still in pretty good shape at that point, and none of us would have known that 5 days later he was going to die. So we had planned most of the details of the funeral, and towards the end, my dad turns to my mom and says, "What do you think about the idea of us having our 6 children be the pallbearers?" Mom, who was the consummate planner, said, "Sure, I'll plan that." Dad said, "Can you also plan the date?" We had the rest of the visit, and at the end, Dad got up from his chair and we gave each other a hug, as we always did, but he also gave me a kiss on my cheek, which he never did. And he said, "I'm really glad that you're my son." And I said, "I'm really glad that you're my father." On the Wednesday morning, we got a call that Dad had been taken into the hospital overnight and that they had told him there was nothing more they could do for him. My parents had decided together that they would withdraw his medications, knowing that he probably would have about 3 days to live. And he asked that all of his children and spouses come to the hospital that night at 7 p.m. So we're all there. We had a great visit. At the end, he said goodbye to each of us in turn, and I think he said something special to each of us. I know he did for my wife and I. The next night he had arranged at 7 p.m. to have all of his grandchildren and their partners be there. And they had a great visit. And then later on the Friday afternoon, we got a call to all go to the hospital. So there were 23 of us in the room gathered together, sharing stories, reminiscing, telling jokes. and having quite a lot of time just in silence with Dad until he died at 9 p.m. 10 years ago, there was not a hospice in Stratford. There is now. I think my dad would have probably chosen that if he had that option. But the hospital provided a great space and great care to my dad and to all of us so that he could have a good death. I've been married about 30 years, and many of you know that in the 12 years previous to that, I was a Roman Catholic priest. And I had the great privilege during those years of being with many individuals and families for good deaths. But sometimes it wasn't so easy. Sometimes it was really difficult. Like one time when the police called and asked if I would go with them to a home to tell 3 children that their parents had just been killed in a car accident. And telling those children aged 12, 9, and 5 this news was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. What made it harder was that the family had just moved to Canada 6 months previously from Scotland, so there was no family around. So the next day, an uncle and an aunt came from England, and we wrapped ourselves around these children as best we could, and they asked if I would officiate at the funeral. So 2 days later, we were all on a plane with the bodies of the parents in the hold of the plane back to Scotland. And the next day I officiated in this small church in Tayport, Scotland, and the caskets were in the 2 spots in the sanctuary where they had stood facing each other 15 years previously, exchanging their vows. So we supported these children as best we could. The paternal grandparents raised those children and did a fantastic job. And 35 years later, I'm still in touch with them. And they are now incredible parents, those 3, and their children are about the age they were at that time. I hope that none of you had the experience of losing a parent, let alone 2 parents, when you were a child, or that your loss was another really traumatic and unexpected death such as they experienced. But tonight, with a ritual like this, and at times like this, we have the opportunity with every death to somehow make it a good death, to still make this a time to bring some closure and to be grateful for the impact of this person in our lives. We have a really good friend who has had the experience of the death of 2 husbands from pancreatic cancer. So in each case, not having a lot of time to be able to say goodbye. And she is positive and resilient and funny, but just last week, she posted on her Facebook page this description of what it's like to lose your spouse. And I want to read a little bit of that section. The death of a spouse or partner is different than other losses, in the sense that it literally changes everything in your world. When your spouse dies, the way you eat changes. Your friend circle changes. Your family dynamic changes. Your financial status changes. It affects your self-worth, your self-esteem, your confidence, the way you breathe, your sense of security, your sense of humor. You are handed a new life that you never asked for and you didn't particularly want. Some of you have lost your spouses and you know what this is like. And for those of us who haven't, we can't imagine what it would be like to lose the love of our lives. Before Deborah would agree to marry me, she made me make 2 promises. One, that I would never go into politics. And 2, that I wouldn't die before her. This is why hospices are so important in the world. Most people want to die at home, and we fully support that. And some people, like my father, will die in a hospital or in a long-term care home. But when the care is too much at home, or the hospital's not the right place, or for any other reason, a hospice can be a really good option, and the likelihood of it being a good death is increased. Because this is what we do. This is all we do. We are expert at this. We're always trying to create the conditions for a good death. And we do this by having this beautiful 12-acre tranquil spot in the country. We do it by, when people come, they're no longer the caregiver, but just the friend or the family member who can sit and spend time and have the capacity to just be with your loved one and have somebody else bring the tea. And we have 2 hospice nurses 24/7 who are specialists at pain management and symptom control and providing comfort. And those nurses with hospice volunteers together look for every moment they can to make it special. And it might be encouraging you to write a letter that could be given to somebody before you die or after you die. Maybe offering the opportunity for a live funeral so that you can hear the nice things that people would say about you after you're dead. Maybe you love this kind of music. Well, we've had them come to the windows of our hospice to play for somebody who likes that. And for somebody who would like to hear the solace singers, they are bedside singers who can come right into the room and sing. And if you like motorcycles, we sometimes will bring some motorcycles by for you to look at from your patio. So the chances are improved of having a good death at a hospice. But it's more than that. Hospices everywhere are a symbol and a reminder of what it means to be civilized. That how we die matters. It's so important that after we've grown up and gone to school and gotten a job and have a partner and have children and work hard and retire and have grandchildren and be a good neighbor and be a good friend and be a great community volunteer, that at the end somebody is saying, thank you. Thank you for the enormous impact you have had in the world. So we're now going to hear the names of the people that we're remembering this evening. And hopefully for many of them and for us, it was a good death experience. And even if it wasn't, tonight again is an opportunity for us to just recall that as we continue on our journey, a lot of who we are is because of who they were.
This evening, candles have been lit in memory of Diane Hanley, Bruce Rathwell, Joan Kane, Susan Baker, Andy Bilkey, Claire Malon Gerber, June Ingham, Charlene Keyes, Marjorie McCoy, Carol McDowell, Lois Strawn, Helen Frances Faye Wallace, Margaret Jane Wilkin, Lois Wise, Nancy Allen, Ross Errington, John Vanderhaar, Sheldon Ward, Flora Hesk, Joe Craig, Luann Taylor, Marina and Cecil King, Michelle Lindsay King Petzel, Arlene Timmons, Charlene Keyes, Carol Pringle Burgess, Colleen Sharon Monroe, Hazel Leggett, Ellery Carter, Godfrey Heathcote, Jonathan Vanderhaar, June Robinson, Tony Small, Marie and Alex Voisin, Bill and Joyce Dowson, Elizabeth Libby Wilson, Mills O'Brien, Pam and Barry Gordon, Tom McFarlane, Bill and Ruth Moore, Bud Langley, I'm losing the speaker, Brent Powell, Carol Laurie, Michael Walker and Jack Lewis, Tom and Joan Armstrong, Ivan Rose, Joyce and Harold Seaman, Ruth and Richard Gillians, Robert Charters, Blake Hesselwood, Francis Ritchie, Slav Nowalecki, Dorothy and Delbert Marshall, Bradley Faulkner, Leah Ledgley, Morris Valley, Lucy Gilbert Morris, Jim and Joanne Collins, Cassidy Valentine Holmes, Ron Elliott, Trip Deal, Paul Markovich, Slav Nowalecki, Don Krabby, Terry Krabby, Joyce and Laverne Hartung, Joyce Atchison, Marianne McLean Forster, Noel Cooper, Ron Parrott, Ruth Ann Knights, Clive Bibby, Lillian Velocci, Olivia Della Mitchell, Warren Watt, Scott Carroll, Lois Byram, Ruth Ann Knights, Carol McDowell, Elva Lewis, Mike Graham, Paul Draper, Ron Bork, Tony Lonsbury, George Snyder, Bruno Montine, Vito Piovizan, Matthew Corman, Tara Hartman, Richard Tillman, Julaine Brent, Martin Soligo, Bill Stotner, Lise Armstrong, Jennifer Armstrong, Muriel Freiberger, Doug Shane, Lloyd Glore, Anson Evelyn McKinley, Lois Strawn, Helen Wallace, June Ingham, Glenn and Jean Tremaine, Bill Bartholomew, Ruby Leisman, Ben and Dorothy Whiteley, Bruce Kohler, Joan Brody, Danielle Herman, Marg and Bob Bowers, Harold and Elsie Coombs. A special candle has been lit tonight to promote peace and harmony around the world. And one more special candle has been lit this evening in honor of all the staff and all the volunteers at Huron Hospice who make every day a special day. Thank you.